Hello. Got a few minutes to go live. So I'm going to jump on here before family movie night starts. We have dinner. Hey, everybody. Quick check-in since I missed last week. Just going to say hey, let you guys know a couple things before I go into my weekend of work and fun. How's everybody doing? Hello. What you watching? Oh, we don't know. We always choose. We get in down there and look at the new releases, and then we have a big giant pile of DVDs that we take pics with and stuff. If you guys wanted to see how big the monkey was, that's how big the puppet is right there. So it's probably about, I don't know, if it was standing up straight, probably about 5.5 inches tall. Tudo bam. So, not sure. We always pick. We get our meal going, and then we pick a movie to watch. All right. Questions coming in. What app do you use for stop motion? I use DragonFrame. DragonFrame is pretty much the standard software for professional stop motion people in our business in America, but a lot of the world uses it too. I think in the UK they use a different one. I can't remember it anymore, but it was the other competitor. But here in the States, like any major studio, we all use DragonFrame, and I use it in my garage too. Yes. Hey, everybody. Anthony. Itzy. Caleb. Tom Patel. Hey, what's up, man? Tom's here, which is cool because he's one of the people that told me that I should get on Patreon. And that, a giant clay puppet. Yes, I could make a giant clay puppet, but I would have to have a reason to make a giant clay puppet. 3D coat or substance painter. I don't know what either one of those are. I'm sorry, I don't know what those are. Okay, can you show us your He-Man? Also, do you collect Transformers or Star Wars? Yes, I do. I actually just got some new He-Man toys I'm really excited about. And I do have Transformers. One of them's right up there. Right over there, if you see him. Blitzwing's there. I got 1985 Soundwave. Yeah, I got a bunch of Transformers. I got Optimus Prime over here. I got a few. I was a kid, that's what I grew up with was Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, He-Man. Those are the cartoons I watched as a kid, so I definitely played with all of those toys. Do you have a set planned for your Raptors and T-Rex animation that I'll be doing? I don't, because I think the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to blue screen it into some live action footage that I took out in the desert with my daughter. But long term, yes, I will be making a miniature set for them to do their battle on, so I can change the cameras and have different angles and have it all really nicely integrated versus the tests I've been doing recently, which is a lot of mixing live action with puppets. Anyone who's writing questions in the words part, make sure you submit them as questions because sometimes they go by so fast I can't read them all. Dynasty Shift says, as someone interested in stop motion, what is your average salary of an artist like you? So this is a question, Dynasty Shift, and most people maybe that are not in the business don't understand this, but you don't ask people how much they make. You just don't do it. It's basically rude, and also I might make more than someone else, and then someone else gets mad. But as a professional animator, you make decent money. And when I say decent money, you make plenty enough to pay your rent and have some leftovers. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you're getting, maybe I can do this, between $200 and maybe $500 a day, depending on the projects. Maybe that'll help. Between 200 to 500. So if you're somewhere in the middle, there's your average, maybe. And if you're better, you get more. If you're on certain productions, you might get more because they have bigger budgets. Commercials sometimes take a lot of work, but they have high budgets. You get a higher rate on those. Your favorite Transformers movie was Dark Side of the Moon. Oh, that's cool. I think mine was Bumblebee because it was the only one that felt like a real Transformers, like the cartoon. Okay, and you say, looking at the stuff Goblins are coming up with, what do you think of 2D animation making a comeback? Yeah, I mean, Goblins has been doing amazing 2D animation for years and forever. I do think 2D animation will find a home, kind of the same way stop motion is finding a home on the streaming services. Because people don't pay money and go to theaters anymore. But people will watch it on a streaming service. So like, for instance, Klaus, right? Or Klaus, which came out a couple of years ago, was incredible. It got so many people to watch that. The quality was so high. It was so inspiring to watch for me as an animator. I'm sure he'll get another project because it was successful in how many views. It's exclusive to a certain streaming service, so every Christmas people can watch it. So I think 2D will find a home in that same way. The same way stop motion is getting a chance, because now you don't have to go to a box office to watch it. You can just watch it on streaming services. Looking at the stuff Goblins come... Oh, you just said that. Okay. What was your first animation? I can't remember because I was too young, but it was probably a stick figure character on a flip book. If you know what a flip book was, we used to draw little pictures on the side of our textbooks when we were kids, and you would flip the pages, and it would make animations. I probably did some like ninja jumping and flipping, or doing some gymnastics, or I did dinosaur biting, or who knows, like. I did so many of those little flip books when I was a little kid that I think those were my first animations. Yeah. Do you use Autodesk Maya to animate 3D characters? Yes, I do. I was just using it today. So yes. It's pretty much the standard, again, kind of like Dragon Frame and stop motion. Maya is pretty much the standard in CG animation out here. Unless you're working for a studio that has a custom, like DreamWorks has a custom software that they use. But if you're at Disney, you're using Maya. If you're at Sony, you're using Maya. Blizzard uses Maya. Almost every studio I've ever worked for in the last 15 years has used Maya. Before that, I used 3D Studio Max for about 10 years. In games, that was also used pretty relatively common, but nowadays I'd say it's more Maya. How's your Viking short coming along? It's coming along great. I made some real progress this last week. My next character that I'm working on, the little girl, is, I'd say, 75% sculpted. And I'll be finishing her up hopefully a little bit this weekend. And then the Viking is half molded. The wolf is fully molded and cast. We're making moves. I'm very excited. I've been working on the Gremlin short that you guys have seen some sneak peeks of, and though I just finished last night my last shot on that. So as soon as I composite that and get it into a film, the little short I'll release that to the internet. I'll do an episode on how I made it for my YouTube or my Patreon. I'm saying it again here. I'll be talking about that as well. But then I'll be moving on to other puppets and some more collaborations that I have happening. with other artists on social media. This is a weird question, but what if you could do moving camera shot in stop motion? Possible? Totally possible. Yeah, it's done all the time. KRSNA K77. If you look at any feature film in stop motion, the camera's moving all over the place. I move cameras in my garage all the time. I use a Manfrotto geared head, and you can just turn the little knobs and it'll tilt or pan, tilt, lift, whatever you want it to do. You can put it on sliders and push them around frame by frame. You get some really great camera work. Definitely can do it. Was animation a big but good distraction from school when you were younger? And if so, how did you, this is from Cyber XCA. How did I deal with it, I guess is what he's asking. It wasn't a big distraction. It was an inspiration. I still played outside. I still, I had responsibilities as a kid. My dad and mom made me do, my chores and take care of my sisters or whatever. I played sports. I had a lot of things going on. I was always inspired by it. Less distracted. But I found time to draw, and I found time to, watch the cartoons I wanted to watch and all that stuff. So it was a healthy distraction. That's what I would call it. Do I have a favorite frame rate from Dynasty Shift? Yes, 24 frames per second, always. I always work at 24 frames per second, unless I'm in Maya working on a video game. Sometimes in video games we work at 30 frames per second. But very often, like even at Blizzard, when we do the cinematics, we're working at 24 frames per second. Film is my favorite. And in stop motion, it looks really smooth too. And it doesn't kill you doing it. Do you think Maya will continue to be the standard, or do you think Blender will be the new norm? I think Maya will be the standard. I think Blender will be a tool used with Maya. That's what I think. Maya is a CG program for all the stop motion people that are here. You've written quite a few short films. What are the most important story lessons you've learned? Oh man, I got this is from Cessna Illustrations. Yeah, I've made a lot of films actually over the years, including stuff you guys have never seen, 2D shorts, CG shorts I made. The most important lesson is shorter is better. Shorter is better. Always. Doing films on your own takes so much time, so much work, and a bad short film is so much easier to watch than a bad long film. And you should be able to communicate your story in less than 5 minutes. I would say between 3 and 4 minutes would be plenty to do a short film in. If you're going over that, it really starts to drag. People will get lost unless you're, a superstar who can really command their interests with your storytelling skills. But most people, it's hard. It's really hard to make a good film. So shorter is always better. Less characters, because so many people that I know start short films and they never finish them, ever. Because it's really hard and it takes a long time to do it. And if you're trying to motivate other people to help you, it's so much work. And very often they will let you down because long term people get different inspirations, different motivations. It takes a lot of discipline, and so short. That's the big one. What job did you gain the most experience from? And that's from question. It just says question. Oh, Sigmund was here. Sigmund Washington. What job did you gain the most experience from? And then it just says and. So I'll guess what it says. What job did I'd say the most experience from, I mean, they're all so different, man. Your very first job you ever get in the business, if you think of it as a download, you're getting so much information on how the real world works, how a real production works, what's expected, how people act in groups, how people collaborate, how, if you think of that, your first job is probably the one where you're going to learn the most in your whole career, right? So mine, that was 25 years ago. But you're getting such a huge download of real world information. But each one after that will provide, nuance, right? So like you get new experiences, right? So like if I'm working on a video game, maybe I'm just handling enemies, my first job. And then the next job, I'm doing bosses, which is completely different. And then the next job, I'm doing playable characters where you move the joystick and it has to feel good. And you have to really, there's so much, you're working with a designer who's asking for certain things and you're collaborating with them. And then you're doing cinematics where it's about storytelling and camera work and acting and action. And every one of those jobs, experiences, levels you up. And then that's just big, broad strokes. If you're doing things like, I'm animating a four-legged character, I'm animating a girl, I'm animating a ninja, I'm animating a dragon, I'm animating, now even break it down further. Now I'm animating a sad dragon. Now I'm animating a dragon talking about, the pain in his life, something emotional, right? Like you have 800 million new things you're experiencing every week. Every time you get assigned a new shot in a film, in a TV show, in a video game, you are doing something you might not have ever done before. So it's always new. You have some familiarity. You're like, okay, I've done something like this before. I've done something like that before. But you're constantly doing something new. So you're growing forever. You're constantly growing. But back to answer your question, your first job is probably the biggest download of just overall, that first matrix. I know Kung Fu, like you're getting everything. Okay, Cessna, how was integrating live action with animation affected your approach to your shots? Cessna, I grew up with Harryhausen stuff. I was just literally watching Valley of Gwangi today, and I love that illusion of real creatures interacting with humans. And, it's so different because when Harryhausen did it, it was, he would use rear projection. And for anyone here who's young and doesn't know what that is, they would basically have live action footage that would project on a screen from behind the screen. Then there would be a second camera in front of the screen. So if you think of me, if I'm projected, right, me, what you're seeing right now, then they would have another camera on my side photographing me, and then the little figures would be here in between, right? So then he would photograph his figures in front of the live action footage that the actors shot and the director shot in the past. And then when they were all photographed together, it would make the illusion of a dinosaur being on that footage or whatever. And there's some special nuance to how you make that work. You cut out masks and do all kinds of stuff, and then you would also incorporate some foreground elements in the set to blend with that live action footage. So it had layers of depth. So as far as what I'm doing right now, I've been doing nothing but blue screen, which is, so much easier to do now. You match the lighting, you match the camera perspective, and then you do your best to match the live action footage. What I'm doing different is, I guess I'm just, I'm learning about the compositing part of it, which, I don't have tons of experience in. I know how to bring my shots to life, but But now I have to learn about lighting matching with light wraps, and you have to learn how to do good keying where you pull out the colors and the wires. So the approach is just, I guess I'm learning as I go right now. The next piece of my growth there is to incorporate some set stuff in, like what Harryhausen did. So in my Gremlin stuff, for instance, maybe I had some foreground elements that were actually on set photographed and composited as well as my live action footage. But really right now it's just me figuring it out. I really want to get good at having touch, real touch. Like, I picked up the Gremlin with my hand, and that was very cool and felt very good. But I want to get really good at making things the illusion. Like if Annie the Gremlin pushes on my face, I want to see my skin wiggle, right? How am I going to do that? I don't know, but I got to figure it out. These are like the cool magic illusions that I want to be able to do. So when I do my big story, which is live action mixed with stop motion, I'm going to have this bag of tricks and a lot of experience to really pull off some illusions. Okay, Animatable Alex. Justin, what's the usual schedule like of an animation studio like Leica? You usually go to work between 8 and 9, depending on if you're on 40s, 45s, 50s, 55s. Those are hours in a week, right? So if you're in the normal part of a week, you might just do 40s. So you get to work maybe 8:30, right? 8:30, and then you can leave at 5:30. That's kind of a 40-hour a week job layout. If you're going beyond and you're starting to work 45s, then it's like 6:30. If you go to 50s, then what they try to do is they'll start you earlier. So maybe you start at 8, you eat a little half hour out of the morning, and then you leave at 7 or 6, something like that. And then individual animators will choose to stay later. When I did my first film with Leica on Paranorman, I was working crazy hours because I didn't really know any better, and there was a little bit of pressure there, and I also just wanted to do a good job. But I was working 14-hour days. But just as a piece of information, a typical stop motion day is 10 hours. That's what they consider a stop motion day. It's not 8, it's 10. But say 8:30 to 5:30 in the good times. Okay, question from Krishna K77. Do you like Disney's work, story-wise? I don't really, because every other Disney movie feels the same. I appreciate Disney. That's what I would say. I loved Disney that I grew up with. Classic 2D Disney. I was really, really into and inspired by and made me want to animate. The more modern Disney, I think they're trying to break out of being that predictable and formulaic stuff. And I think they are doing that, but there still is definitely that flavor of Disney which I understand. It's why they've been so successful. Parents know when they take their kid there, they're going to take them to a safe movie. They're no, I'm in live stream, babe.
Oh, you're live stream?
Yeah, I'll be done in like 5 minutes. So I appreciate it, but they're not my favorite to watch anymore. That's what I would say. When I watch movies over and over again, I can't think of too many Disney films lately that I pop in over and over again. Unfortunately, but the kids love it, right? So what am I to say, right? Like, Frozen is like one of the biggest things ever in animation history, and they did something right if all those little girls and kids are enjoying it. Moana, I liked aspects of, but I still didn't love it. Soul, I thought was cool, but I didn't think it was amazing. Although Soul wasn't Disney, sorry, that was Pixar. But these are CG films recently that I've seen. I haven't seen much that's excited me outside of Spider-Verse. That was the first CG movie in a while that I was like, yes, that was great. It was great film. Tasted different. Finally, instead of sugar, it had like a little bit of something else to it, which I really appreciated. But on average, I'm not seeing too much. I did see The Mitchells recently on Aliens vs. the Mitchells or whatever on Netflix, and that was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it again, but I enjoyed it. And I appreciated the touch, the little details that they put into that film a lot. Okay, where's the best place to learn how to sculpt? Your living room! Your bedroom, wherever, man. All you got to do is start doing it. YouTube has a billion videos you can watch on sculpting. But really, man, it's just doing it. I'll tell you right now, like, you just do it. You get in there, you start laying some clay down, you build some armatures, you learn some basic things, and then you just start practicing. But YouTube will supply you with tons of knowledge. Okay, Cessna Illustrations. Do you have a recommendation of animated short films, animated music videos? Oh, gosh. I'm kind of out of the loop on short films. Most recently, I saw the Santa Claus short from Blood Sex Robots on Netflix. And it had something. It was stop motion, but it had something else going on. I think it was the eyes of the puppets that were CG or something, or real eyes. I don't know, composited eyes. So it felt different than stop motion. But that was a pretty cool short. That was one of the best ones I've seen on that show recently. Music videos. Man, I'm way out of the loop on music videos. I haven't seen one in a while because I don't even see music videos anymore. All this, MTV stopped playing those a million years ago, and then I haven't seen anything. So sorry, I don't. All right. As a 2D artist, what do you think I must know rather than just the principles and storytelling? Just an artist? Just a 2D artist? I mean, I would say develop your style. That's really important. Because, there's a million 2D artists that can draw an anime style or comic book style but the ones that I know that kind of make it in the business, they have something unique about their character designs or their the way they lay down lines that people will that companies respond to. The only other thing I could say is in 2D animation wise, it's fairly limited these days. My daughter is a 2D artist, and she, would prefer to work in 2D animation, right? So that's television typically, or Netflix, or one of the streaming services. And most of those jobs are overseas. Most of the creation is done here as far as like the character designs, the stories, the storyboards, but then most of it's shipped overseas. So it's really hard to find 2D work that's like steady, consistent, unless you're in maybe the storyboard process or in the character design process. And then if you're in the character design process, you really have to have a unique flavor to be able to, work consistently. So, having your own unique voice is going to help you get noticed too. So if that helps at all, I tried. All right. Animatable Alex, have you ever got a rejected Leica shot when it passed the theater for approval? Have you ever got a rejected? I think what you're saying is, have I ever got a shot not approved or rejected? Yes, once, but it wasn't a reject like, it went all the way out. It basically, when you're at the end of a production, this is a thing, a new word for you guys, but usually you block, rehearse, and shoot your shot. 3 attempts or 3 phases till you get a finished shot. And at the end because we're running out of time at the end of production, sometimes they have you blute it. That's what they call it, blute. So blute is when you block shoot, which means there's no block, there's no rehearsal. You just give it a shot and you hope for the best. And I had a blute on Paranorman the first time I had ever worked with the zombies. And I had to hit these marks and make this shape, and I had never touched the puppets before. So it was a long shot anyways that I was going to get it approved. But they took a chance. They're like, all right, Justin, go try to blute this. And when I did the shot, they didn't approve it, so I had to shoot it again. So that's the closest I've ever had to a rejection. It doesn't happen very often in feature films or at Leica, because the director visits you every single day and does a check-in. And if you're doing something during the day that they don't like, they'll kill the shot right there, or they'll make you do a cutback. So you shouldn't get all the way to the finish line on a shot and have it rejected, because the director has seen every phase. You typically aren't doing more than like 40 frames in a day, right? So if you're doing 40, 45 frames in a day, they see it every day in 45 frame increments, and they can tell if something's going off the rails. So I think that answers it. So last thing, because I got to go, it's family time. I just want to let you guys all know here that I started putting my Patreon channel together, and I am going to be moving over there very soon. So I'm going to be shooting some videos this weekend for the intro. I'm going to be doing my first lesson that will be on the Patreon. I'll be doing monthly lessons. I'll be doing the live stream over on Patreon. I'll be doing a lot of things on Patreon. So you guys will see when I put it up. But I'm going to have 3, different tiers, 4 tiers actually. I'm going to have the just thanks for supporting me, and I keep, it helps me put out this content that I do every week with my animations. I have the one which will come with one video lesson unique to Patreon every month, which will be anything on all things stop motion, from making a puppet to doing run cycles or walk cycles or acting or molding, you name it. I'm going to be putting armatures. All of my tutorials that I was going to put on YouTube are now going to go on Patreon, because YouTube is not paying any bills, meaning like I'm putting a lot of time in and I'm not getting anything for it. So I'm going to put it on Patreon. And then the third tier, which is going to be the biggest tier, I'm also going to have a podcast where I will be talking to friends and other professionals in this field one-on-one, and you can hear and peek in on that conversation. And I'm telling you, you can learn tons from the conversations that you'll hear me have with other professionals in this business. And then the final one that I'm going to be putting on my Patreon is going to be Mentorship Light. And it's going to be expensive because I teach privately, right? That's one of my jobs that I have. And when I teach privately and I tell people how much it costs, they're all like, oh, I can't afford that, right? But that's how much it costs, right? If you go to online education, it has a cost. My time has cost. I'm a professional. And I'm going to have Mentorship Light on there, which will still be expensive to some people, but it will be a check-in, personal, one-on-one, where I will be able to help mentor you and hopefully attain your goals as an animator, as a stop-motion person, a CG artist, whatever it's going to be. So keep an eye out. It will be going up probably within the next 2 weeks, and actually, now that I think about it, the new month is starting. So very soon. And I hope you guys join me there, because we're going to have some cool conversations. I'm going to have a lot of good information as far as how animation works. And then we can finally talk. And hopefully we can do it through Zoom too. Some form of Zoom. I've been thinking about that, where I can actually see you guys. Because I wish I could put faces to some of these names that I see that are coming here. But either way, good to see you guys. I got some animation and some family to do this weekend. Keep an eye out for my gremlin. Over and out. Later, guys. Have a good one.